definition. Of course, we shall first look at contrast as a principle by defining it. We shall also look at the importance of contrast, like want to really understand very well what unique thing does contrast contribute, what unique thing does it bring to your design. Okay, so understanding the unique things that contrast brings to your design will help you to know the importance of contrast. Then we shall look at some examples on the applicability or the usability of contrast. Yeah. So you don't mind about the notes. I'm going to share with them immediately after our session.
Okay.
So these are
even tomorrow.
Tomorrow's notes. Tomorrow, unfortunately, no. I'm going to have a wedding that is going to make me busy. Yeah, so I'm having a wedding. I'm going to.
I'll just write them down for the next lesson.
Yeah.
Maybe on Monday or something.
Okay. Please.
I'll have time to write them tomorrow.
Okay, please. Okay, so these are the key principles, just like we've been navigating through the design and the visual elements that create graphic design. So we want to see now the principles. These are more or less rules. Principles are more or less rules. You know, as a graphic designer, you do not only have to look at the beauty brought about by the visual elements, but you also have to understand what are the basic principles you as a designer, what rules must you follow when you are arranging your work, when you are designing any piece of artwork. And those principles are here. As a graphic designer, you must be aware about contrast, you must be knowing hierarchy, alignment, balance, proximity, repetition, simplicity, and the function. So we are going to navigate through these principles one.
Mr. George.
Yes, please.
Before I forget, is it possible today to teach me how to download the other stuff we talked about? Was it Adobe? Was it no the types?
The fonts.
Yeah, they were yeah the fonts.
Yeah,
If Mr. President allows us to do other stuff on Saturday, my sister might go back to check at her campus, and she will be going with her laptop.
Okay.
Yeah, at home we're having a computer.
You have a desktop computer.
But I don't know whether, yeah, but so I thought I should start learning how to use it before she goes back.
Okay, I get
you.
So no problem. We shall at the end of the session we shall look at how to download a font and how to install it.
It has to be connected to the internet, the PC, the computer.
If you want to download the font.
Yeah, to do my work from there, because is it possible to do it on the phone?
Doing which work exactly? What we are going to be learning?
Yes.
Because what we are going to be learning, like in the second month, we are going to be doing most of the work on the PC. However, since you have a desktop computer, maybe what you can do, you can use it for designing and doing practices. But when it comes to class sessions, you will be using your phone, just like right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Yes.
only challenging part will be like if I want you to share your screen, that is the only challenging
Yeah.
part. But anyway,
Mm.
we shall find a way forward. We shall find how to go about it. If it means I record some short video clips, then you just watch it, download them, watch them as you do exactly what I was doing in the video.
Mm.
No problem.
Okay.
Okay, so you reminded me at the end of our session.
Okay.
Yeah, after us looking at contrast. So as I've told you, these are the principles, or these are the guiding rules that help you to come up with very good design. Of course,
Mm.
these complement the other visual elements, because we say the visual elements are the ones which bring the attention, which bring they bring the message you want to convey to someone.
Yes.
Yeah. Because we said you can use any of the visual elements that we have been looking at to convey a message to someone looking at your artwork. So, but we want to look at these principles and how applicable they are on graphic design. So we're beginning with the first key
Mm.
principle, and that is contrast.
Mm.
So
Yes.
you seem to be not settled.
I am right now.
Now you're settled.
Yes.
Okay, so let's continue. So we want to look at contrast as a principle in graphic design.
Mm.
Okay, and
Contrast.
remember we said
Yes.
principles are like rules. These are guiding rules
Yes.
which graphic designers follow.
Mm.
So how is contrast a rule in graphic design? So we shall begin by understanding the definition of contrast. Can you help me read the definition of contrast?
Contrast is the degree of difference between the lightest and the darkest part of a visual element.
So as you are seeing it, that contrast is the degree of difference between the lightest and the darkest parts of a visual element. So what does this mean? When it comes to contrast, you are always going, of course, when you are designing, whenever you are designing, you are always going to you are always going to have different visual elements placed onto your page or onto the space you are working on. But
Yes.
remember, you are going to be wanting some elements to be more shouting than the other. You are going to be wanting some elements to be like communicating more than the rest.
Like shade in
Yes,
the color.
yes, of course. So what we are trying to say here, that it's the difference between the lightest and the darkest parts of a visual element. So assuming,
It's like that, Mr. George.
yes, please.
It's like that. Is it we talked about it while looking at colors? Was it mono? About the color, like the shades of the same color.
Yeah, that is the.
But
Yeah, that
mono.
perspective, that perspective is broad.
So
It comes onto board. However, we want
I'm monochromatic, but this one I'm looking that shade with two colors. Oh no.
it's one color appearing at different shades
Yeah.
and tints. Okay. So when we talk about contrast, we are simply talking about having an idea as a graphic designer, having that concept where you are able to make sure that not all the visual elements you have used on your artwork have the same contrast. The contrast has to be different depending on the urgency of the information, depending on the way you want your information to be communicating to the person looking at it. So,
Yes.
so for you to be able to achieve that, then trust me, you are going to give different visual elements, different contrast levels. Yeah, you'll understand as we move on. So we are told that contrast occurs when two or more visual elements in a composition appear different.
Different.
Yeah. So for you to have that thing called the contrast to be incorporated in your design, you must have two or more visual elements. And I guess you understand
Elements.
the visual elements we are talking about. The other one,
Yes.
line.
Line, color, space, shape.
So those
Form.
elements, the moment you decide to use those elements on your composition, then if you want to bring in the aspect of contrast, then you must make them appear different. Not making all of them to appear the same. So you may have multiple elements, but when they are appearing differently, because they are appearing differently, then you are trying to bring the aspect of contrast onto your design. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, because when we are working with contrast, when we incorporate the aspect of contrast, you will realize that since the elements appear differently, there are some elements which will capture the attention of the viewer than the other. So there will always be a certain arrangement of capturing the attention of the viewer who is looking at the work. So all that is capable to happen because of the way you decided to apply different contrast levels onto the different visual elements that you have put on your composition. So we are saying, yes?
Like arranging the arrangement. So
Hello?
it's like contrast, like the arrangement of. Hello, Mr. George.
Yes, I can hear you.
Contrast, it's like the arrangement of different visual elements in the design.
It is not necessarily the arrangement. Contrast is here. We are saying is the degree.
It's the degree of light.
Difference
light
between the lightest and the darkest parts of visual
parts
of a visual
element.
So you may have just one element, but when it is appearing at different degrees or different levels, you may have some when they are dark, some when they are light. Of course, the darkest parts of the element will be capturing attention more than the lightest parts of an element. You get the point?
Yes.
So that's why we are saying it occurs when two or more visual elements in a composition appear different. So assuming you have more than two elements, you have more than two, you have three elements, because usually a composition must have very many visual elements. Like when you look at the other artworks that I used to share with you, the ones I did, you could realize that there are more than two visual elements incorporated. on the design.
Yes.
And
Mm.
because there are more than two, they must appear differently. So their appearing differently can be achieved by either change of color or by application of different contrast levels. Okay?
Yes.
Yeah. So for example, let me just share, there is another artwork I wanted you to have a look at. I'm sharing it shortly. So there is something I did here for so I did this just yesterday. Somebody called me and wanted something like this. I hope you are seeing it.
Mm.
You realize on this is what we call a composition. Okay?
Wow, yes.
So a composition envelops very many visual elements, just like what you are seeing here.
Mm.
There is the aspect of typography. Are you seeing typography now here?
Yes.
All the text that you are seeing here falls under typography. And then we are having the
Yes.
aspect of the shapes. We are having the aspect of color,
Lines.
lines. So you realize that the other visual elements we learned, they are the ones which are giving us this composition. So when it comes to contrast, you realize that because we are having more than two visual elements, each of them appears differently, depending on either the contrast level or the color that has been applied to an element. Okay?
Yes.
Yeah, so let's get back here. So we are saying it occurs when two or more visual elements in a composition appear different.
Different.
Yeah, the moment you have more than two elements appearing differently on a composition, then what makes them appear differently, it is possibly the change in color or the change in the contrast level. Yeah, so
That
change in contrast level will mean maybe some elements are light, some elements are dark. Yeah, so that's why we are saying in the design. So this is the main reason as to why we use contrast.
contrast.
Yeah, we use contrast to generate impact. To highlight importance. If you want to highlight importance of something, then it is better you make that something to appear darker than the rest of the elements which are present in your composition. Contrast also helps you to create exciting graphics. Of course, when some elements are dark and others are faint, or others are light on your design, your composition appears, or your graphics appears exciting. You should not again make every visual element to appear dark, or every element to appear light. It doesn't really bring out that beauty. But once you alternate, some elements appear dark, some appear light, then your design is going to be exciting to whoever is going to be looking at it. And then contrast also helps to create visual interest. If there is a particular area you want someone to be interested, you want to put somebody's attention to, then you can increase on the contrast level of that particular element that you want someone to look at. You get the point? So these are the main reasons as to why contrast should be catered for in your design. And I've told you contrast can be applied by simply changing the color or making some parts of the design, some elements of the design to appear faint or light, and then some other elements to
Like-
appear darker.
Like the graphic work you have just showed me. The first thing I saw was 2 and go to go.
Okay, let me just put it, you study it one more time.
Okay.
Try to study.
Like 2 days to go. It's the first thing 2 days to go. Saturday. Focusing on good, not the storm. Hello?
What were you saying?
I was saying 2 days to go. Okay, it's light. I don't know. It appears.
It catches your attention more than the rest, not so.
Yes.
That is just because the main reason as to why this artwork was created was to do a countdown, okay? To alert,
Yes.
alert some that the artwork that
And
we are counting down to the UCU law,
yes, time is.
okay?
Yes.
So to
And 2 days. Even the shape around it. The pink, the pink, the pink shape
yes.
color.
Uh-huh.
There's the way it brings out the number 2. I don't know. And the background, it's background because
Yeah.
it's darker than the, because I don't know.
Of course, the background is just there to the contrast of the background. As I told you, it should not conflict with the contrast of the visual elements that you have applied there. So because the background
Yes.
is darker, it really makes all the typography and the other elements on that to be visible clearly. You get the point? So whenever you are designing, make sure there is no conflict, either on the visual elements that you are using or the background that you are going to use. So the background should be, the contrast of the background should be in position to give the visual elements space to be seen properly. So this one is a very good example. So you can see now all the information, the typography and the other elements, they are seen clearly. All that is capable to happen simply because of catering for contrast.
I'm seeing our profile pictures.
Hey, you are not seeing okay. Let me share it. Hey, are you seeing it now?
Not yet.
I wonder why.
There is a green color. It goes to my DP, then to yours, back to my, like that. I don't know. Did I do something?
I'm wondering. So let me see. Let me stop sharing. Then I start sharing again.
Okay.
I hope now you can see.
Yes.
Okay. So you've seen how the idea of contrast is catered for from here. So it is it should be in your mind that when you are designing, if you want some items or some elements to be seen clearly, then what you do, make them to appear, give them another color, and then make the background to be darker. The moment you make the background to be darker, then you're in the aspect of contrast.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Lee, what color is it pink? Is it hot pink, light pink?
This one, it is pink.
Yes.
It's pink, but then I just applied some effect called outer glow. Or you are going to learn those effects on Photoshop.
Okay.
Yeah.
Even like this, is it a coat like focusing on board, not the storm?
Yeah.
The pink, FOC.
They are darker.
Yeah. Then when you go to the word on,
yes,
and then it's kind of light.
Yes. So that is what we call that one is just what we call a gradient.
Oh, I thought it was opacity.
No, it is just a gradient.
It's not
applied, but of course the gradient has the aspect of contrast on it. When I was mixing the colors to create the gradient, I was trying to, I actually put the white, I made sure that the middle part of my gradient has to be light. Don't worry, you're going to learn how to create a gradient and you will create your own gradients. You'll be able to mix different colors and you'll come up with your own gradient. Okay? Hello?
Yes, Mas.
Yeah, so what I'm showing you here is just to give you an idea, just to have a glimpse of what you could be in position to do by the end of the course. Okay?
Yes.
Okay, so let's get back to class. So these are the main things that contrast does. It generates impact. It helps you to highlight importance, create exciting graphics, and also create visual interest. Okay? Help me read this information.
Context. Have I read correctly? It's context.
Yes.
Context is integral. Because integral. Integral. Like that.
Yes.
Integral. Roll.
Integral. Yeah.
Integral to contrast.
Yes, very well.
Like that.
Yes.
We may think that the chosen visual object in a composition says something about itself.
That is the context. Are you trying to understand that information?
Maybe, can we use, what other words can we use to mean integral?
Okay, context.
Integral, yeah, is integral.
Of course, context is integral to contrast. Which other English word can I use? Just trying to think of a word. Context. You want another word for the word what? Integral.
For integral, yes.
So something which is integral is, I may say, necessary to make or it is essential. Essential or fundamental. Does that make sense to you?
Fundamental, essential, yes.
Yeah. So context is fundamental or essential contrast.
We may think
Mhm.
that the chosen visual in a composition say something about it. Yeah, like the number 2. it it's like it's like it's saying that number 1 is coming. You know, you have to hurry up.
Yeah. So, and then we are saying it is more often, and you know what makes number 2 to come out to make you think that way? It is because of the contrast. It is because of the contrast,
yes,
and the element
and the color. Yes, and the color, it triggered someone's feeling, and you're like, you start panicking. Oh, what am I going to do? Time is going.
Yeah, and also the elements, there are the other elements around it, not so.
Yes.
They really capture somebody's attention.
Yes.
Yeah. So we are saying we may think that the chosen visual object in a composition says something about itself. However, it is more often the visual elements around it that give it its meaning.
The meaning.
Just imagine if we had a plane too. We had a plane too without this pink around it and this blue.
Yeah, with the cold color.
So it wouldn't really communicate what it is. But because we try to put what we call visual interest around it, we put this shape around it, we put these other ones, it really triggers somebody's mind and somebody's feelings, not so? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so just a minute. I'm taking.
Hello, Mr. George.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
Sorry, I was taking a call. It was an urgent call.
Okay.
Yeah. So you've got to understand what this means. that
Making
a visual object being alone really does not bring its meaning. But it is the elements around it that really make it bring its meaning out. That's what we are saying here, that we may think that the chosen visual object in a composition says something about itself. If it is alone, that's what we will assume. But the reality is, for the real meaning of that object to come out, then we need to have other elements surrounding it. Just like the way you see the number 2 here. Just imagine we had a plain number 2. It wouldn't really capture our attention. But now what is driving our attention here, it's because of the presence of these other elements around it. Okay?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's what we are saying here, that it is more often the visual elements around it that give it its meaning. Are we
Mr.
together?
George.
Yes.
Yes. I've seen, I've seen, how they call it in English? On the screen, eh? Yeah, there is the mute. There are also icons, also
on Zoom,
like the start. Yeah, the start video, share, participants. Then there is more.
So those are different.
You're seeing it more.
Yeah, I'm seeing them.
More.
Are you seeing mine or yours?
What's there in more? Mine, I think, I don't know. Is it mine or yours?
You must be seeing.
I think it's mine.
You must be seeing yours. The funny thing is, under more, what you may see is not exactly what I may see, because me, I am the admin. So I have more things. Or you will just have a few of them.
Should I check that?
Yeah, you can check.
Is it okay?
Yeah, it is okay.
Oh, the emojis, raise hand, there is raise hand, there is chat, meeting settings, and cancel.
Yeah, so
and emojis.
Like raise a hand is like if you have a question you want to ask, just in case maybe you are muted, and because you see the mic icon where there's that word mute.
Oh, I'm also saying disconnect audio. Oh, I go back. I'll see the mute.
Yeah, you go back.
Yeah, I'm saying mute.
So most of the time that mute icon is where you click if you want to turn off your microphone. Like when I was taking my call, I had to mute myself. We are not hearing me speaking, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so even you, in case you feel you are not, you just click there, then
I can just, then I unmute after talking to someone.
Yeah, then you unmute such that I can be able to hear what you are speaking.
Okay.
Yeah. So there are very many.
Also raise.
You can also raise a hand. So raising a hand usually works in case you've been muted and you cannot speak. The other person, even if you speak, the other person that you are with cannot hear you. So in such a situation,
but I can't. I don't know. When you meet me, I don't. Is there any way I can know that you are muted?
When I mute you, you're asking whether there's a way you can know that you've been muted? Yeah, let me just mute you, and you will see that icon.
Okay.
You will see that icon when it is closed. That icon where there is the word mute. Let me mute you.
Okay.
Have you seen it? Yeah, so for me to be able to hear you, now I cannot hear anything from you, but I believe you are hearing me.
Ah, but you're the one who muted me. Then I thought after you unmuting me, I should be able to hear you. I have to first unmute you. Now
Wait,
it's complicated.
wait. When I mute you, it means I was stopping myself from
Yes.
hearing anything from you. But
Yes.
you should be in position to hear me. And even if you speak from there, I couldn't be in position to hear you. But you remain in the meeting and you remain hearing me. Okay?
No.
You are not getting the point.
Yeah.
You see,
It's like,
muting is like turning
yes.
a microphone. Just imagine you are having a microphone. You are speaking to people when you are using a microphone. The moment somebody mutes you, it is like somebody has turned off your microphone. Will they be hearing what you are speaking?
No.
They will not be hearing. But you will be hearing them. Okay? Yeah, so that is it. And then after screen share, you usually share screen. And then the start video, that's where you turn on your camera from.
The share screen. When I share my screen, I have nothing. I have nothing on my. Maybe it. Can I share my screen when I'm using a phone?
Yeah, it should be able to share. But of course, you cannot share when I'm sharing at the same time. I have to first stop, and then I have to permit you. I have to let you. I have to give you permission for you to be able to share. Get the point?
Yes.
Yeah. So you are having another question?
When you're sharing your screen, you're not on, because you go on doing other stuff on your PC.
Yeah,
you can go in other apps.
Yeah, because I share a particular screen that I want the youth who is part of my class to see. I don't share the entire computer such that you see everything that I'm doing. But I share that particular area that I want you to see, such that it doesn't.
You type it there that I'm share.
Come again.
When you're going to share, like
You
how do you do it? When you're
select.
going to share,
You select
you select
the window that you want to share.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so we continue.
Yes.
Okay, so we are saying we want to see an example. Because we said it is more often the visual elements around it.
Often the visual elements around it what gives it its meaning.
Yeah.
So
we are saying this here is an example. We are having a circle, but does it say? But what does it say about itself? So the circle is there. We're assuming you found this circle on a plain page. What would it be communicating to you? Just imagine you found only the circle on a plain page. What would it be communicating to you? It would definitely say, I'm a circle. You would just look at it and then you imagine, okay, this is a circle.
Yeah. So
And that is capable to take place because it is the only visual element that you will have found on a page. Okay? But does it tell you something about how big it is? Does it tell you how small it is and how far or nearer it is? Not really.
Because there is nothing to compare it with.
Yes, so that's why we said that, that's why we are saying it is more often the visual elements around it that give it its meaning.
Meaning.
Okay, so to bring answers to these questions, how big it is, how small it is, how far or nearer it is, then we need to add another visual element. We need to add another element like this
visual element.
Yeah. So now we are having two visual elements. I think these questions are now answered, even if they have not, the real answers have not been written there, but by just mere looking at the two visual elements, at least you get answers to the questions, not so? You can you realize that this object is bigger than this one, and this one is smaller than this one, not so?
That
Secondly, you are able to know that possibly this one is nearer to you. It is nearer to your eyes because it is bigger. Okay? So all that is capable to happen because of what we call contrast. So because this one is because this element is available on the same composition with this one, this other element gives this one its true meaning. Okay? So this, we come back to this and we say it is more often the visual elements around it that give it its meaning. So because we are having these two elements now, this one and this one, because this one is around this one is within the same area with this one. Okay, this one gives this one its true meaning. It makes this one to be recognized as the bigger shape. Are we together? You can get to tell it is the size. You can get to tell whether it is nearer or far away from your side, just because there is another object or another visual element to compare it with.
Yes.
Okay. So contrast can push visual elements away. Contrast can also connect them, and it can also complement them at the same time. Are we together?
Yes.
So without contrast, visual elements can be meaningless. I don't know whether you are understanding that statement.
Without contrast, visual elements can be meaningless. Provoke our senses.
So if you do not cater for the element of contrast, if you do not cater for the aspect of contrast on your visual elements, then they are going to be meaningless. Because if you do not change the way different visual elements are going to appear on your composition, then all of them will be meaningless. But what will make them meaningful, it is by putting in the aspect of contrast, making sure that the contrast of one element differs from the contrast of another element. And by so doing that, because you have applied the contrast properly, then the contrast will provoke the senses of someone looking at the work. or someone looking at the artwork. That's what we are trying to say. So our eyes like contrast because it grabs attention and it makes it easier to digest or interpret what we are seeing. You get the statement?
Yes.
That our eyes will always like contrast because it contributes a lot in grabbing somebody's attention and making it easier to digest or to interpret what someone is looking at. Just like what you saw in the other artwork that I showed you. If the contrast was not there, trust me, your attention wouldn't be pulled to number 2. But because contrast was catered for, your attention was grabbed by number 2. And it made it easier for you to interpret what you were seeing. Okay? So here we are having just a marathon of some examples where contrast has been applied.
Application.
Yeah. Some examples where contrast has been applied. Okay?
Applied.
Yeah. So, of course, we are going to look at contrast in a shape. How can contrast be applied in a shape? Contrast in color. When we're using color, how can we apply contrast? When we are using contrast, how can we apply it in scale? Contrast in layout, contrast in type, contrast on road signs, and contrast on logos. The very first one is contrast in shape. You see the different shapes that we are having here? We are having this round circle, and then we are having this other circle, which is having pointed ends. Not so. Of course, one circle has a smooth surface. The other one has a pointed surface. Is that true?
Hello. Hello. Pardon?
I'm saying here, we are seeing that there are two shapes, right?
Yes.
One shape has a smooth surface. The other has a pointed surface. So I'm having a simple question. Which shape is your eyes attracted to when you look at the two?
The one with the pointed edges.
The one with the pointed
The one with the pointed edges.
Why do you think the one with the pointed edges is the one attracting your eyes?
Because I don't know, it just does. because of contrast.
Okay, so the other one which is just smooth appears just plain, not so. But because of these edges here, and the color in it, they really bring some aspect of art, which captures somebody's eyes, and because the shape is dark, it really contributes in grabbing somebody's eyes. Okay? And then here we are looking at contrast as applied in color. Contrast as applied in color. So when you look at the artwork, it has a mixture of shapes which are appearing in various degree of color. Not so. Hello.
Interesting.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm saying when you look at here, we are looking at contrast as it is applied in color. So, do you hear me?
It's like opaque. Yes, sometimes.
Of course. So I'm saying a contrast. When you look at this particular artwork, there is a mixture of shapes which are appearing in various degree of the color. So actually there are different opacity, opacity levels. Because you know opacity is more related to contrast, because when it comes to contrast, we are looking at the lightness and the darkness of an element. And the same applies to opacity.
Opacity.
Okay. So on this particular artwork, we are having a mixture of shapes appearing in various degree of color. The darker the shape, the more attention it commands. I'm sure when you look at this,
the more visible.
yeah, the more I'm sure when you look at this
The
particular
more
artwork,
syllable.
yeah, which one is taking your eyes? Which shape is taking your sight? Hello?
Hello?
Yeah. So which shape is taking your sight from these many shapes that we are having here?
The big circle.
It must be this one, not so.
The dark one, this one.
Yeah, just because of
Yes.
the opacity or the contrast that it has. So it is darker than the rest. Of course, eyes are always pulled to darker surfaces or darker elements than light elements. So in this particular case, this one takes your attention more than the rest. And then here we are looking at contrast in scale. Contrast in scale? Yes.
In scale?
Yes. We are seeing, when you look at, there are two pieces of artwork. We have 8 strokes or 8 shapes in different sizes. And then we are having a grid of circles. So these are the strokes or shapes, but they are appearing in different sizes.
What is scale in
scale in graphic design is just like the measurements or the dimensions. So you find that the scale of this is not the scale of this one. The scale of this is not the scale of this. So this one is bigger than this. Or the measurement of this is bigger than the measurement of this. So it means the scale of this is bigger than this other one. So we are having 2 pieces of work. We have the 8, these are 8 strokes. We call them strokes in graphic design. And then we have the grids of circles. It is the visual elements around each other that bring meaning to one another. Okay? You realize that when you look at these particular ones, this one on top takes your attention more than this one down. Not so. Meanwhile, here also, the bigger circles, they capture your attention more than the smaller one. Not so?
Yes.
Yeah. And when you look at these particular ones, the ones with this other stroke, because it is darker, it captures your attention more than this other one, which is smaller here. When we look at here, we are looking at contrast in layout, which, of course, on top of here we have the top composition appears regulated and structured, and it looks organized, not so. Meanwhile, the bottom one is free and random. There is no order. So this one should be able to capture your attention more than this one, because this one is more organized. And the figures or the shapes which are formed, they are systematic and they are laid out properly.
Yes, it's noticeable.
Yeah. And then contrast and type, typography. Okay. So contrast is commonly used to create hierarchy and structure. When you look at the different typography used here, you realize that some fonts are bold. They are appearing bold more than others. Like when you look at this one is bold, even this one is bold, even this one is bold. So those ones are the ones which pull somebody's attention more than the rest of the information which is available on the piece of composition. So this one is appearing bold, this one is also appearing bold, this one is also appearing bold. Of that aspect of contrast, they were made to be darker than the rest of the text which is available in the composition. Because they are darker than the others, the aspect of contrast has been catered for. Okay.
Yes.
And then here we are still looking at contrast in color. You realize that a word is popping out from a block of text because of being in a darker shade. So you can see when you combine it, because this is the C-O-N-R-A-S-T. Okay. So you can now read this as a contrast. This is popping out. It is the one which is nearer, closer to the side than the rest of the information. Just because these letters, this one, this O-R-S-T, they are darker. Not so?
Yes.
So their being darker makes them provide a different contrast compared to the rest of the information which is available on the composition here. So do you see how contrast is playing a part here? Remember, when we are talking about contrast, we are talking about the darkness or the lightness of an element. An element to overpower the rest of the elements, then we just need to make it to have a darker contrast. Okay.
Yes,
and then we are having contrast in road signs. You can see this is a road sign. This is darker than this. So when somebody is looking at this road sign, somebody's attention is pulled to this. Somebody's attention is pulled to this more than the boundary. Somebody's attention is pulled to this one more than this. Somebody's attention is pulled to the cigarette which they have crossed more than even the what? The boundary. And then when it comes to logos, the aspect of contrast can also be catered for. Like you can see here, these ones, they are bold or they're darker. Here it is darker than this. You can see some areas, some surfaces of this logo is white, the others are darker. So if you are designing a logo, you can also apply the aspect of contrast. I think even our logo has that aspect of contrast. Do you see this logo? It has some aspect of contrast on it. You can see the SH, RP, tech, they have a different color. Meanwhile, this A and this line, they are having, yeah, it is a little lighter. Okay. So basically, that brings us to the end of our session, and you are having an assignment here. Draw a piece of artwork on your paper, highlighting one of the uses of contrast. At least only one. We have looked at many. You can see all this. But you are going to craft an idea and you draw one of them as you are highlighting. Is it difficult? Huh?
Most times when having a lot of options, up having none.
No, and I want it to be unique. You are not going to duplicate what you are seeing, but you are going to get an idea from what you are seeing to do something else. You know, graphic designers are creative.
Yes.
Yes. You have to be creative enough.
Okay. I'm going to. Hey, you wait.
Okay, so that brings us to
Wait and see.
that brings us to the end of today's session.
Thank you.
So you said,
you told me to remind you.
yeah, it's what we are headed to. So once you want to download a font, let me share.
Should I? No. Should I put on the computer? No, because there's no internet there. So.
But why don't I show you that one? Monday? How do you see?
On Monday. Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. Mr. You're going to. Hello.
Yes.
Mr. Yeah. So you're going to send me two notes. Two.
Yeah, I'm going to share with this particular one. I'm sending it right away. Then the other one I will send it later.
Okay.
Okay. See you.
Okay.